Describe your involvement and your impressions about Medici 2.
My role here at the Positive Psychology Center is as the Director of Education and Senior Scholar. So I come to work every day here at the center and have been really pleased to be able to take part in the Medici 2 conference that's also been going on here for the last 6 weeks. And I've attended a lot of the open sessions that have taken place in the afternoons, the 4 o'clock sessions with a variety of scholars coming through. My background is also in philosophy. I have a PhD in philosophy, and so in particular when philosophers were coming through, I sat in on some of those sessions and got to interact with some of the philosophers.
Describe how you think Medici 2 and follow-up seminars will affect positive psychology and the rest of your career.
I think that Medici 2 and the following seminars will affect positive psychology in a very powerful way. First of all, it's just the opportunity to have such a rich array of interdisciplinary dialogue. It's something that occurs all too infrequently in academia, in my experience. But it's a great opportunity to have people in, not just who are psychologists, experts from different areas of psychology, but also psychiatrists, philosophers, economists, physicians, people from a lot of different backgrounds coming in to talk about positive psychology, both from a theoretical standpoint and then also in terms of how it might be applied in their particular domains. Specifically with regard then to Medici with the 5 different projects that are taking place, I think it's a wonderful milieu from which those projects can sort of take root and grow. So I think that it's a wonderful combination of open meeting, open dialogue, interdisciplinary interaction, and then also specific work on things like meaning and purpose and how we can identify that and harden up the variables with that. Work on psychological capital that Mike Csikszentmihalyi is doing that I find particular interest in and resonance with given my philosophical background. Spirituality and positive psychology, of course the well-being, national indicators and so on, and then the translation of the websites into Spanish and Chinese. So again, it's just a great combination, a great way of undertaking specific tasks where you're sort of bathed in this rich interdisciplinary dialogue, chance to talk with people in the hallway and have a lot of rich conversations.
Discuss your area of interest within positive psychology.
I would say that I have 3 particular areas of interest in positive psychology. First of all, since my background is in philosophy, I'm very much interested in the philosophical underpinnings of positive psychology. We had a conference here a few months ago where we invited a handful of philosophers, including Martha Nussbaum, and a handful of psychologists, including Marty Seligman and Chris Peterson, to talk about some of the philosophical connections, underpinnings of the Values in Action Classification Project in particular, but of positive psychology more generally as well. And it's fascinating that philosophers have been talking about flourishing, eudaimonia, the good life for thousands of years, and positive psychology now is bringing some of the methods of empirical psychology into a realm that philosophers have talked about in conceptual terms for a long time. So I find it a really rich connection, place of dialogue and mutual enrichment. And indeed, the folks who were at the conference also found it to be an exciting crossover of disciplines and cooperation. So I continue to be interested in cultural connections of positive psychology, what are previous thinkers, previous movements in a variety of disciplines that have focused on the positive, and how does that relate to what positive psychologists are doing today. How might it inform positive psychology, and how might positive psychology inform those older traditions? A second area of interest I have as the Director of Education here at the Positive Psychology Center, my current task is primarily to work to develop the Master of Applied Positive Psychology program we have here. We're just starting our first year. Our first group of students will be coming in the fall of 2005. So thinking specifically about how to take the science of positive psychology, things that have been studied by leading researchers in this field for a number of years, and how can we take that theory and empirical results and now move it into profession into various professions. So how can doctors and lawyers and teachers, for example, how can business leaders use the theories and practices of positive psychology to inform their own particular professional careers, but also then to help recraft their professions as a whole to make them more friendly to the kinds of things that positive psychologists focus on. My third interest then, particular interest in positive psychology, is in terms of positive interventions. I will be teaching 2 courses in the master's program, one on positive interventions and the other on advanced positive interventions. So I'm very much interested in what a positive intervention might be, how it might differ from sort of a more general notion of a psychological intervention. Does the notion of positive intervention really capture what we mean in positive psychology? Intervention really just means to come between. And so it seems to imply a kind of external agency. It seems to imply that there's some kind of problem that needs to be intervened about. Whereas positive psychology, I think, has an interest also in helping individuals to work on themselves, not necessarily relying on external agencies, and not necessarily simply taking action when there's a problem, but rather working to enhance strengths that they already have. So one of the things I'm interested in exploring is whether the term enhancement might be a more accurate way of describing what we're interested in positive psychology with respect to positive interventions. So, and then, of course, how these, what kinds of positive interventions or enhancements have been researched, documented, assessed to this point, what others might be good candidates for such assessment, how our students might be able to craft their own positive interventions or enhancements that are particularly important and valuable for their own professions and in their own contexts, in their own work lives.